Zeon looked at Crocker and the crocodiles rushing towards him with a fierce momentum. Crocker was a C-rank awakened martial artist, and the crocodiles were all made up of D-rank and E-rank. It was an immense power that could easily wipe out a huge chunk of the slums in a flash. However, in front of Zeon, it was useless. A blaze erupted right in front of Zeon. A firewall had unfolded from the Inferno Gauntlet. A hellish blaze filled the underground space. The crocodiles screamed in agony from the intense heat. Having adapted to living in the damp underground for a long time, they were vulnerable to the scorching heat. What might seem merely hot to ordinary people felt like hellfire to them. Moreover, Zeon's firewall, unleashed with the Inferno Gauntlet, was several times hotter than regular flames. Bodies of the crocodiles rushing at the forefront caught fire and collapsed. Despite writhing on the ground and screaming to extinguish the fire, it was futile. Once the fire had started, it wasn't easy to put it out.
You bastard!
Crocker hurled his unique skill, Stone Fist. As the name suggested, it was a skill that made fists as strong as rocks and hurled them. Although it was a simple punch, its destructive power surpassed that of other skills of the same rank. His skill struck precisely on Zeon. However, Crocker couldn't rejoice, because Zeon deflected his skill with the Inferno Gauntlet. Suddenly, Zeon's figure blurred and appeared right in front of Crocker. It was an approach using sand strides. To Crocker, who didn't know this fact, it felt like Zeon had used skills like spatial teleportation or blink.
You?
At that moment, Zeon's fist struck Crocker's abdomen fiercely. Crocker was thrown backward with a scream. Colliding with the wall, Crocker spat out blood and struggled to get up. His gaze towards Zeon was filled with anger. He felt it last time too, but he was no match for Zeon. To him and the crocodiles living underground, Zeon was no different from a god or a demon. He couldn't defeat Zeon in a conventional way. He resorted to evil.
Damn it. Everyone, inject yourself.
Crocker took out a syringe from his pocket. It was a syringe containing yellow liquid. Without hesitation, he plunged the syringe into his heart and injected it. Seeing him, the crocodiles also injected themselves in the heart. The yellow liquid inside the syringe was one of the drugs they had manufactured. The difference from other drugs was that it instantly boosted all abilities to the maximum. Crocker and the crocodiles made eerie sounds as they bent over. Their stature grew much larger, and muscles bulged out even more. Zeon looked at them with an interested expression.
Looks like it's some kind of stimulant.
Even though the world had gone to ruins, humanity had deteriorated even more severely. Numerous drugs that severely affected the human body had been developed, and those who casually consumed such drugs were spread everywhere. One thing for sure was, no matter what effects a drug had, it came with equally severe side effects after consumption. If a drug like the stimulant they injected could amplify human abilities in a short time, then its side effects would be even greater.
Die!
Crocker and the crocodiles rushed at Zeon with wild attacks. Zeon's hair fluttered as Crocker's fist approached. Before the fist, the wind pressure hit Zeon. However, Zeon easily dodged his attack. Then the crocodiles attacked Zeon from behind. Their movements were more animal-like than human. In their red eyes, there was no reason, only madness. They became twice as fast as before and consequently much stronger. The concrete shattered as it was hit by their fists like bombs. Crocker, in particular, surpassed that, he roared. His entire body was covered in a red aura. The drug pushed his abilities to the limit.
Fuck! Die!
Crocker squeezed his muscles to the limit and exploded with all his strength. Zeon observed not only Crocker's actions, but also his body reactions and eye movements. Crocker's and the crocodiles' frenzied attacks lasted for almost 10 minutes. However, the moment exactly 10 minutes passed, their movements noticeably slowed down.
Is 10 minutes the limit?
He didn't know the identity of the drug they injected, but it was clear that they could only maintain maximum output for about 10 minutes. At this point, he had learned everything he could from them. The sand scattered on the ground wriggled like snakes and rose up. Dozens of sand snakes raised their heads stiffly and glared at Crocker and the crocodiles. It was one of Zeon's skills, Viper. Crocker's eyes widened at the sight he had never seen before. Even in a state frenzy, he sensed danger.
What's this?
Instead of answering, Zeon snapped his fingers. Instantly, sand snakes flew like arrows towards Crocker and the crocodiles. The Viper instantly pierced holes in their torsos, even with the drug boosting their abilities. They couldn't survive with a huge hole in the middle of their torso. The bodies of the crocodiles collapsed like sandcastles. Crocker managed to stay standing stubbornly, but he had reached his limit. His eyes returned to normal.
You? What are you? What is this skill?
Despite meeting numerous awakened individuals before, seeing someone manipulating sand was a first for him.
Then what about the fire magic? Could it be a duel?
Xian smiled and raised the Inferno Gauntlet.
It's just an item.
An item.
In Xian's hand, the Inferno Gauntlet gleamed. Crocker's eyes wavered. He couldn't believe that such a powerful fire-based ability could simply be an item's skill.
You cunning bastard, hiding your true abilities like that.
That's how you survive in this world.
You cough. I was completely fooled. I never meant to mess with your stuff.
With that, Crocker slumped down, his breath extinguished. Xian glanced at Crocker with an indifferent expression before moving on. His destination was the secret passage behind Crocker. He had seen Goran and Ava enter there. Everything was part of Goran's grand scheme. Using Crocker's plan put him against Xian, a cruel mindset befitting the ruler of Sinchon. Xian was curious about what Goran aimed for by pitting him against Crocker. The reason was likely inside. Xian entered the secret passage Goran had gone into. The passage was narrow, damp, and devoid of light, but Xian had no issue. He had eyes that could pierce through the darkness. Xian followed Goran and Ava's trail down the stairs. After a while, he arrived at a very large underground space. The space was over 100 meters in length and width, with numerous beds laid out. Hundreds of people with pale, corpse-like complexions lay on the beds. Thin tubes were inserted into their arms, through which red blood flowed out. The blood flowed into a large tank at the center. Goran and Ava stood in front of it. They were focused on the tank, unaware of Xian's presence. Xian quietly approached the tank.
Huh?
Ava, who belatedly noticed Xian's approach, looked puzzled, but Goran, absorbed in the tank, didn't notice Xian's presence. Xian naturally glanced at where Goran was concentrating. Sitting in front of the tank was a girl, with messy blonde hair, deep dark circles under her eyes, and a somewhat cynical expression. She wore a wide-brimmed hat and a voluminous black robe that witches might have worn in ancient times. However, chains were tied around the girl's ankles. It seemed to be a restraint to prevent escape. Goran spoke to the girl.
It was you. You were the one making the drugs supplied by the crocodiles.
Shut up! Human!
The girl snapped.
Human?
Goran repeated, raising an eyebrow.
You better turn your eyes away before I gouge them out. How dare you look at a noble elf with such eyes?
You're not human and elf? So that's what they look like.
Goran chuckled.
Amusing. Never thought an elf would be the one making such good drugs.
You're all worse than maggots. If I'm set free, do you think I'll stay quiet? I'll kill everyone. I'll kill every single human.
The girl spat venomous words, glaring at Goran. Usually, elves were thought to be noble or quiet, but the girl was not like that. The elf girl's name was Brielle. She originally lived outside Neo-Sol. Suddenly, one day, disaster struck. She encountered human awakenids passing by the vicinity. She gave it her all, but eventually, she was overwhelmed by the humans and subdued. From then on, her miserable life began. After being sold to humans several times, she ended up here in the slums of Neo-Sol, far away from where she originally lived. Crocker discovered her true talent. It was her talent in alchemy. As an elf with heightened senses, she excelled in alchemy. Crocker found a way to exploit Brielle's talent. It was to develop a new type of drug. She created several new drugs that had never existed before. Thanks to this, Crocker was able to become an emerging powerhouse in the drug market. All the drugs provided to Goran's organization were made by Brielle. The drugs Brielle made all used human blood as a medium. Since human blood was the most important substance in the body, the drugs made by Brielle had far fewer side effects than other drugs. The problem was Brielle herself, an elf who loved nature making drugs harmful to all living creatures. Her anger and resentment towards humans grew day by day. In the end, she came to hate and resent everything in the world. Goran spoke to Brielle.
From now on, you work for me. I am now your master.
Yeah, I'll make them. Crocker, you're all the same bastards. Well, it's all the same no matter which bastard I make the drugs for.
Haha, that's a good attitude. That's how you live long.
Goran smiled satisfactorily.
An elf drug maker, huh? What an interesting development.
At Xian's voice from behind, Goran's blood ran cold. Turning around, he saw Xian looking at Brielle with interest. Goran said, glaring at Xian.
What? What about Crocker?
You'll see him when you go outside? Ah, even if you ask, he won't be able to answer. Because he's dead.
You've already taken care of him.
It wasn't that difficult.
Instead of fighting like this, just come under me. With you and me together, we can take control of the slums in no time.
I refuse. I won't work under someone else.
So, you're really gonna push it to the end, huh?
Goran's expression turned menacing. His original plan was to make Xian and Crocker take care of each other, then secretly take Brielle, the drug maker, away. After that, with the reorganization of the slums and disposing of Xian, everything would have been perfect. But Xian dealt with Crocker and the crocodiles quicker than he could have imagined, disrupting all his plans. Xian looked at Brielle and said,
I'm not particularly fond of elves, but even then this is too far. Humans are the most dangerous after all.
You act like you're not one of them. All you hypocrites.
Brielle's diatribe poured out all at once, but Xion's expression remained unchanged.
Hey, elf girl. If you want to get out of here, you'd better keep your mouth shut. Among these two, I'm the only one who has the possibility of setting you free.
For a moment, Brielle involuntarily sealed her lips shut. Xion's gaze turned to Goran.
Where are you going to run off to now?
Goran's face hardened frighteningly. It was because Xion's mocking words had hurt his pride.
Ha! The audacity of this little brat pierces the sky.
I seem to have offended again.
Is that so? It seems that way. That's why it's more infuriating. I feel like I need to tear all your limbs apart just to ease my anger.
Goran's voice was filled with thick resentment. This was the first time he had been pushed into such a corner since he took control of Sinchon. What irritated him even more was that he realized all these situations he thought he led all this time were actually under Xion's control. Goran knew. What was truly frightening was someone who controlled the situation like this. He had to cut Xion down completely before he grew any bigger. Goran spoke, twisting his neck in different directions.
You're the first person to make me genuinely angry like this. So consider it an honor to die by my hand.
At that moment, without a sound, a single metal spear shot out from behind Xion. The spear was aimed directly at Xion's waist. It aimed to sever his spine and render him powerless in an instant. But just before the metal spear could reach him, Xion's body slid aside smoothly. He spread out his sand strides to evade the attack.
Damn it!
Cursing, a man with a chilling demeanor appeared out of nowhere. It was Theo, one of Goran's loyal followers. Goran clicked his tongue. His trap had failed in vain. He had prepared Theo for such a situation. Theo was a martial arts awakened, specialized in assassination. In addition, Ava had deployed illusion magic to hide his presence like a ghost. Goran had also engaged Xion in unnecessary conversation to distract him. However, Xion easily avoided Theo's surprise attack, as if he had foreseen it. With Xion evading Theo's surprise attack, there was nothing left but to exert full force to kill Xion.
Shot!
Hot.
Theo and Ava attacked Xion. Xion unleashed his sand strides, stepping back. Where he retreated was right near the bed where people were lying, getting their blood drained.
Now!
Bang! At that moment, with Goran's shout, a person lying on the bed exploded. For the brief moment they entered here, Goran had turned some of the people lying on the bed into human bombs as a precaution. Xion was knocked back by the explosion. Taking advantage of that, Theo rushed in and Ava unleashed her magic. Goran detonated the human bomb to strike Xion. It was a combination reminiscent of when they had conquered Sinchon decades ago, defeating numerous rivals. Though Ethan and Dolkin were missing, with just the three of them, they could easily crush most Awakenids. The problem was that Xion was no ordinary Awakened. Xion swung his hand. At that moment, sand particles piled on the ground rose up like snakes and attacked the three. It was one of his skills called Viper.
What's this?
Sand snakes?
Damn it!
The three scattered in surprise. Though they had faced numerous Awakenids, they had never seen an Awakened manipulate sand. Like venomous snakes, the Vipers aimed for their throats. As if magic missiles, the Vipers chased their targets relentlessly. The three realized they couldn't avoid it, and each deployed their skills to protect themselves. Theo used his metal spear, Ava used magic, and Goran used air bombs to block the Vipers. Bang, bang! With thunderous explosions in the air, sand particles scattered everywhere.
Ugh.
Ava groaned. While the Vipers hadn't inflicted damage, sand particles had gotten into her eyes. Unconsciously, she closed her eyes. Taking advantage of that moment, Xion plunged into her embrace.
No! Ava!
Theo and Goran shouted, trying to save Ava. But Xion was faster than them. His right hand covered Ava's face. Flames erupted from his palm. The intense flames melted Ava's face in an instant. Ava couldn't even scream before her breath was cut off. Goran and Theo widened their eyes in shock. But before they could react, Xion charged at them.
Yeah.
Die!
Goran and Theo unleashed their ultimate skills. Bang, bang, bang! The people lying on the bed exploded one after another, and Theo's metal spear shot through the air like a red arrow, aiming directly at Xion. Xion was swept away by the explosion, and Theo's metal spear pierced through the midst of it.
We got him! It's over!
Goran and Theo shouted simultaneously. Their excitement at capturing Xion paralyzed their reasoning. Hence, they didn't notice. At some point, sand particles were floating around them. They realized this fact a moment later.
The sand? When did it?
At that moment, the floating sand particles spun at terrifying speed. Xion's skill sand mixer had been unleashed. The spinning sand particles gnawed at everything. First, they turned the clothes they were wearing into dust, then gnawed at their skin. Next were their muscles. Goran and Theo screamed in agony as they tried to escape, but it was futile. Sandmixer swallowed not only their bodies, but also their voices. Brielle opened her eyes wide, watching the scene. In the quiet room, only the sound of gears turning could be heard echoing. Brielle felt as if her body was being torn apart and shivered. After a while, the chilling sound disappeared, and the terrifying spinning sand settled on the ground. In their place stood 2 chunks of meat. Goran and Theo were so mutilated that their original forms were unrecognizable. They staggered for a moment before collapsing to the ground. That was their end.
Oh my God.
Brielle covered her mouth with both hands. Her pupils were shaking violently. She had never even imagined such a skill before, let alone seen.
A skill manipulating sand? Is he a sand mage?
Slowly, Xian emerged, pushing aside flames in Brielle's retinas, unscathed by Goran's explosions and Theo's attacks. His appearance only further nauseated Brielle. Xian murmured as he looked at Goran and Theo's corpses.
Seems like it's not a skill suitable for use against humans. I should restrain myself.
Though he had expected to withstand them to some extent, it seemed he had overestimated the two's prowess. Xian shook his head slightly, surveying his surroundings. Due to Goran's skill, the underground space was devastated. People lying on the beds had been swept away by the explosions, and Brielle was the only one who survived. Approaching Brielle, Xian said,
It'd probably be better to kill you to keep it a secret.
He still didn't want to reveal himself as a sand mage. Brielle, who was quick-witted, hastily interjected.
Wait! I'll keep the secret. Please spare me.
I don't trust people's promises.
I'm an elf. A high elf. We keep promises better than humans.
What difference does that make? You're just a drug-making elf. Why believe the promises of a drug peddler? It's much simpler to just kill.
A desperate expression appeared on Brielle's face. Having experienced all the depths of human society, she naturally understood why Xian wanted to conceal his awakened lineage. The utility of a sand mage is boundless. Surely the powers that be in Neo-Soul will be bothered by him. Xian also knew this fact, and thus wished to keep his secret. Although she had fallen from being unable to withstand human threats to the position of a drug maker, she still wanted to live. She was only 12 years old. Considering that elves live for hundreds of years, she was practically an infant. At such a young age, she didn't want to die. She spoke urgently.
Okay, I'll make the oath.
What's the use of an oath?
The oath of a high elf is different. It holds coercive power.
Coercive power?
If you make an oath with your soul, you must adhere to it. If you break it, you lose your life immediately.
Is there such a thing? None of the elves I've met have mentioned that.
They are ordinary elves, that's why. I'm a high elf.
So, high elves are different?
Of course they are.
Brielle shouted out. Xian furrowed his brow slightly. Unlike Diodon, he didn't have any particular feelings toward elves. Of course, if he met them as enemies, he would certainly kill them. But he didn't want to go out of his way to hunt them down one by one. As Xian hesitated for a moment, Brielle threw out her last resort.
I, Brielle Loa, swear by my name that I will keep your secret and follow you.
A bright light emanated from her body. At that moment, Xian felt a connection between his heart and hers, and instinctively he knew. If Brielle were to break the oath, she would lose her life instantly. Xian clicked his tongue.
There was no need for you to swear to follow me. Just keeping the secret would have sufficed.
It was urgent, damn it, you damned!
Realizing belatedly that her oath was excessive, Brielle stuttered her words. But the oath had already been activated. It was too late to undo it. Regretting it was futile.
For now, I'll release you.
Xian grabbed the chain wrapped around Brielle's ankle. There were peculiar patterns engraved on the chain. It contained a magic spell that restricted Brielle's abilities. That's why Brielle hadn't been able to break the chain until now. The chain that had restrained her for so long melted away so disappointingly.
Ah!
Brielle, who had been blinking for a long time, let out an involuntary exclamation. She cautiously moved her feet. She felt no resistance.
Freedom. Freedom at last.
She jumped up and down in place, enjoying her newfound freedom. But it didn't take long for her to recognize the cold reality.
Why did I make such an oath?
As long as she had made an oath to Xian's soul, she had to follow him. Though she had escaped from the den of miserable drug peddlers, another shackle was still binding her.
I don't know. Somehow I'll manage.
In the end, she chose to evade reality. Having lived in the human world for a long time, her way of thinking had become similar to that of humans. Meanwhile, Xian searched the underground space to see if there were any survivors. Unfortunately, everyone had lost their lives in the explosions. Even if it wasn't the explosion, those people would have died anyway. Crocker had turned them into a vegetative state and provided minimal nutrients through tubes. As their health deteriorated, he periodically drew blood, so their lives were hanging by a thread. Zeon looked at the corpses with a bitter expression before turning away. Brielle approached him.
Kid, I'll let you go, so go back to your people.
She stammered.
It was urgent, damn it! You damned!
Wait, no, that part already occurred. Let me correct. The dialogue after the oath, Zeon says. There was no need. Then Brielle replies, I already adapted that. Then Zeon releases her, she exclaims. Then Zeon says, I'll let you go, so go back to your people. Brielle responds.
Damn it! I already made the oath.
I said I'm releasing you.
But I already made an oath to follow you. There's nothing I can do now.
Then?
I don't know. I guess my life is ruined.
A tremendous blaze filled the underground space. Naturally occurring fires could never have this much firepower. It was Zeon who caused the inferno. The superheated flames consumed everything underground. The corpses of Crocker and the crocodiles, Goran and Ava, and even the corpses supplying blood were all turned to ash without a trace left behind. After the tremendous blaze swept through the underground space, there was nothing left.
Are you really human?
Brielle stared at Zeon with an expression of disbelief. A sand mage manipulating flame abilities. Even in the world of elves, dual awakeneds were rare. There were those who awakened two abilities by chance, but usually one was the primary ability, and the other was only used as support. Zeon was the first awakened to freely wield two abilities like this. Zeon glanced at Brielle with a slight smirk.
Let's go.
You're leaving?
Are you planning to stay here?
No, I'll go.
Brielle shook her head, sticking close to Zeon. She had been trapped in this hellish space without a single ray of light for over a year. The mere thought of seeing sunlight again filled her with excitement. With Brielle reluctantly trailing behind, Zeon led the way through the underground passage. She panted.
Just a moment.
But not long after they started walking, Brielle stopped abruptly. Her face turned pale, and she looked like she might collapse at any moment.
What's wrong?
Damn it. Pills, pills.
Brielle frantically rummaged through her pouch and pulled out a few pills. Zeon's gaze turned cold the moment he saw them.
Are those drugs?
No, they're stimulants.
Brielle quickly swallowed the pills. As soon as she took them, her complexion returned to normal. She exhaled.
That was close.
An elf relying on drugs. And didn't you say you were a high elf?
Fuck! Who would rely on these because they want to? It's all because of you humans.
What do you mean?
I had to make drugs day and night under the watch of the crocodiles. Do you think my body would be normal without them?
Her body had deteriorated from being reliant on drugs to the point where she couldn't live a day without them. And her body was so fragile that she wouldn't find it strange if she stopped breathing at any moment. Eventually, she secretly manufactured other drugs to survive. They were a kind of awakened supplement. Fortunately, she was able to prevent her body from deteriorating further due to drugs. But in return, her body became unable to survive without the awakened supplements. So she despised humans who corrupted a pure elf to this extent. At least that's what Brielle thought.
If you rely on drugs like that, you will die unexpectedly one day.
She scoffed.
Don't act like you care. Humans are all the same.
Is there a way to stop having to rely on drugs?
Who knows? I'll have to find a way before I die.
I guess I can only wish you luck.
I don't need any comfort from humans.
But you're the one who decided to follow one.
Damn it!
Once your body recovers, let's go.
Zeon resumed walking. After hesitating for a moment, Brielle hurriedly followed him. After walking for a while, they finally reached a door leading to the outside world. Brielle squinted her eyes against the intense light pouring in from the wide-open door. Having been trapped underground for so long, even her eyes had weakened. She didn't know if her retinas would burn if she went outside like this. Brielle pressed her wide-brimmed hat down to shield her eyes. Zeon grabbed Brielle's hand, surprising her.
If I don't hold your hand, you won't be able to follow me.
Brielle pursed her lips at Zeon's words, but she didn't pull her hand away. She realized there was no other way than what Zeon said. Zeon and Brielle walked hand in hand down the street. The warm wind mixed with sand, the bustling voices of people, and the intense sunlight enveloping their bodies. Brielle trembled slightly at the sensation of the outside world, which she hadn't felt for over a year. She had missed this feeling for so long. Tears streamed down Brielle's cheeks. She bowed her head deeply to prevent Zeon from seeing her tears. As Brielle fell silent, Zeon also remained quiet. The two walked the streets quietly together. After walking for a while, they finally reached Shinchon, which had regained its everyday appearance as if there had never been a series of explosions. Though it was regrettable for the dead, the living had to continue living. Even if the streets turned into a battlefield again today, and many people died, the market would reopen tomorrow.
Huh?
It's Xeon?
Some of the people recognized Xeon among the crowd. Their faces were filled with astonishment. They all knew about the fight between Goran and Xeon. The fact that Xeon had returned meant that he was the winner of that fight. There was no one in this street who didn't know that fact.
Did Xeon really win? My goodness.
Does this mean the owner of this street is changing?
The crowd's agitation was transmitted directly to Xeon. They hoped Xeon would say something, anything. But Xeon simply passed them by and entered the building where his house was. After climbing 18 floors, Brielle's complexion turned pale again. Gasping for breath, she once again took out an awakened stimulant from her pouch and consumed it. With the help of drugs, Brielle barely managed to reach the 18th floor. She panted heavily.
Fuck! My heart is about to burst.
She leaned against the wall, panting heavily.
Here.
Xeon opened the door to his house for her. Brielle entered Xeon's house without any expectations. However, she was surprised to see a different scene inside.
What's this? Why is it so clean? And there's even a barrier.
She widened her eyes and looked around the room. As a high elf, she could clearly see the barrier surrounding Xeon's house. She had never seen such an intricate barrier even in her homeland.
Is that a mana generator? What are those gems on top? Is that the source of the barrier?
Brielle trembled as she saw the watching eye. As the saying goes, knowledge is power. Brielle could understand how remarkable the watching eye was, given her knowledge of barriers.
What's your real identity? Are you human? Could it be that you're a polymorphed dragon?
A dragon? You know about dragons?
Are you kidding? How can you not know about dragons?
Have you seen one?
Of course not.
Brielle lowered her head deeply. An elf as young as her had never seen a dragon in person. Dragons that came to this world were few, and they all hid in deep places where human eyes couldn't reach. They weren't so sloppy that they'd even reveal themselves to some young elf. Dragons were unimaginably fierce, sinister, and cruel. Perhaps if Brielle had encountered a dragon, she wouldn't be an elf in this world anymore. Brielle looked up at Xeon.
Am I going to live here from now on?
For the time being.
Yahoo!
Brielle leaped onto the bed. The warm bed was what she missed the most while making drugs underground. That's why she jumped onto the bed first. But she couldn't fulfill her wish. Xeon had grabbed the back of her neck.
Your place isn't there.
Then, where do I sleep?
Instead of answering, Xeon looked at the sofa.
Sleep on the sofa? Isn't that too much for a lady like me?
First, you're not a lady. Second, the bed is mine. Third...
What? There's a third.
Yes! Third, my heart.
She groaned.
So, don't eye my bed and just sleep on the sofa. That's already quite generous of me.
Brielle glared at Xeon with a pout. Even though tears welled up in her eyes, she couldn't move Xeon's heart. In the end, Brielle weakly walked over to the sofa. But as soon as she lay down on it, she smiled broadly, as if it were nothing out of the ordinary.
Wow, it's so soft, so comfy.
The sofa was softer and more comfortable than she had expected. After tossing and turning for a while, Brielle fell into a deep sleep, as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. Listening to Brielle's quiet breathing, Xeon thought. A high elf's oath. The bond of the oath connected him and Brielle. It was impossible to forcibly sever this bond. As long as Brielle followed him, he had an obligation to take care of her. It was an unexpected burden. To sever the oath, do I need to find the high elf village? Come to think of it, he hadn't asked Brielle where her village was, or how many people were in it. Xeon decided he would ask her when she woke up. But before that, there was one thing he had to do. Leaving Brielle sleeping deeply, Xeon left the house. His destination was Goran's business establishment. Near the collapsed arena were numerous buildings belonging to Goran's businesses. Among them, Xeon entered a building where prostitutes were gathered. Even though they saw him coming, none of the prostitutes stopped him. They knew. The ruler of this street had changed as of today. They had no intention of resisting the new ruler. A prostitute, who looked a little older, stepped forward.
Welcome.
Do you recognize me?
In a place where you can't survive a day without being perceptive, of course. I can't help but recognize you.
Then it'll be easier to talk. Where's Ethan?
Pardon?
Don't make me repeat myself. Tell me where Ethan is.
I'll guide you.
The prostitute led Xeon to Ava's room. There, Ethan was lying down, receiving treatment.
You?
Ethan quickly got up when he saw Xeon. The wounds he had received from Xeon hadn't healed yet, so even standing up took effort. But he had to stand up forcibly. He couldn't just sit and take it.
Goran? Could it be that you defeated him?
Goran, Ava, and Theo, they all died by my hands.
That can't be true.
Believe it or not, you're the only one among Goran's followers who's still alive.
Ethan's face turned pale. If what Xeon said was true, it meant that Goran's power had completely collapsed. Xeon said to him,
You have two choices left. One is to fight to the end and die.
Are there other choices?
Of course.
What is it?
Become the ruler of Shinshan in place of Gorin.
What? What do you mean?
For a moment, Ethan couldn't understand Xian's words and blinked. Logically, since Xian had defeated Gorin, it was right for him to become the ruler of Shinshan.
Why aren't you becoming the ruler instead of me?
I'm fine just as it is right now. If you don't like it, I'll have to find someone else.
No, I'll do it. I'll become the ruler of Shinshan.
Ethan hastily spoke. His face was now filled with a sudden gleam of greed. Despite thinking of it as an insurmountable mountain, he also had ambitions while working under Gorin. Knowing that Xian's offer wouldn't come again, he didn't hesitate to seize it. The fact that Ava, his lover, died at Xian's hands didn't pose any problem for him. There were plenty of prostitutes to replace her. Xian said.
If you agree to one thing, you'll be the ruler of Shinshan.
What is that?
Ethan looked at Xian with eyes filled with intense desire. Xian's answer was simple.
Do not bother me.
Yu Si-hee looked at the Black Lion with an expression of disbelief.
So you're saying Gorin is dead?
That seems to be the case based on the circumstances.
And you want me to believe that? Is it really true?
Yu Si-hee's pupils shook. Even the Black Lion reporting seemed to have a difficult time believing. Gorin had disappeared and Xian, who had fought him, had returned home. The implication was clear. Xian had won.
So, does that mean Xian is ruling Shinshan?
I don't think so.
What do you mean?
He met Ethan. Right after that, Ethan was seen going around Gorin's businesses to take over.
So he won the war but isn't ruling?
It seems that way.
Ha! That man is a headache.
Yu Si-hee sighed. She would have preferred dealing with someone like Gorin. He was full of desires and didn't hide any of them, so everything was clear. As long as it didn't interfere with Gorin's goals, there would be no problem. But Xian was different. Everything about him was unclear. From the past to the present, nothing was known. He was like a person that fell from the sky. After taking charge of the goblin market, she met many people. But it was her first time seeing someone like Xian. Yu Si-hee, who had been contemplating for a moment, stood up from her seat.
Are you going out?
I need to meet my grandfather.
I'll escort you.
Under the escort of the Black Lion, Yu Si-hee left the goblin market. She headed towards a place where shops were clustered. Among them, Yu Si-hee walked towards one.
What brings you here?
An old man who had been preparing for business for a while noticed Yu Si-hee and looked puzzled. Yu Si-hee put on a naive expression.
Is it strange for a granddaughter to come to see her grandfather?
It is strange, suspicious.
Grandpa!
At the old man's response, Yu Si-hee burst out in an annoyed voice.
Your ears will fall off. How can your temperament remain the same even as you age? Sit down.
The old man urging Yu Si-hee to sit down was none other than Old Man Klexi. Yu Si-hee, sitting down, spoke.
Leaving your granddaughter with such a difficult position and enjoying yourself.
Do I seem to be enjoying myself?
Yes!
I can't deny that. Well, it's true that I'm living more happily than ever before.
Tisk!
Yu Si-hee pursed her lips. Old Man Klexi and Yu Si-hee were grandfather and granddaughter. The goblin market she managed was originally created by Old Man Klexi. Of course, the expansion to its current scale was solely Yu Si-hee's effort, but it was Old Man Klexi who started it. For some reason, Old Man Klexi left Yu Si-hee in charge of the goblin market and started living as a street vendor.
All right. What's bothering my granddaughter so much?
Can you see that?
Don't I always tell you? Never reveal your inner thoughts.
But I'm doing that.
Then why can I read it in your eyes?
It's because...
Is it because of that kid, Xian?
At Old Man Klexi's piercing words, Yu Si-hee tightly shut her lips. She always boasted that she had grown a lot. But in front of Old Man Klexi, she was read like an open book.
There's no need to be so discouraged. I haven't completely figured out Xian either yet.
I'd like to know more about him. Tell me everything you know.
In fact, I know almost nothing. It's been 8 years since I saw that kid here.
What was he like when you first met him?
He was naive back then. He probably thought he had a strong will, but that made it easier to manipulate him.
You manipulated him?
Ha ha! Of course.
You're really mean.
Even at her granddaughter's sarcasm, Old Man Klexi didn't blink an eye.
It's clear he was easy to read back then, but now he's become elusive.
Are you saying that even Grandpa doesn't know what's going on in his head?
I hate to admit it, but yes. I don't know what experiences he's had in the past 8 years, but he knows how to hide his true intentions thoroughly. Be careful. If you make a wrong move, even you could fall prey to him.
Are you serious?
Yes. The Xian I met 8 years ago and the Xian now are completely different people. So I'm back to square one, trying to understand him again from the beginning. Gorin was clearly targeted by him. Even with the Eyes of Argos mobilized, we couldn't find Gorin's whereabouts.
The Eyes of Argos were one of the organizations created by Old Man Klexi alongside the Goblin Market. It was an intelligence organization created to protect the goblin market, and its eyes were spread throughout the slums. Old Man Klexi hadn't yet passed on the eyes of Argos to Yusehi, because he thought Yusehi's abilities were lacking to operate the eyes of Argos. He planned to pass on the eyes of Argos to her at a later time when she was more capable. Yusehi sighed.
Ha! What on earth is his identity?
Who knows? I want to know too.
Elsewhere, Xian looked down at the sofa with a pitiful expression. Brielle was sprawled out on the sofa. Her pointed ears were exposed as her hat had fallen to the ground. Brielle stared at Xian with unfocused eyes. Xian sighed.
Ugh, a high elf relying on drugs.
Just an hour ago, Brielle's condition had deteriorated rapidly. In the end, she had no choice but to take a stimulant. The result was her current state. It wasn't a pleasant feeling to see a little elf in such a state due to drugs. Regardless of race, it was pitiful for a child to rely on drugs to survive. Perhaps Diodin, if he were alive and saw this scene, would have laughed and said it served her right. But Xian was different from Diodin. His values and perspective on the world were entirely different. Suddenly, he missed Diodin. Like a flame oxidizing into thin air, he truly left no traces in this world. It could truly be said to be Diodin's last moment. As Xian reminisced about Diodin, Brielle, who was under the influence of drugs, gradually regained consciousness.
Ha! Fuck!
Brielle, who got up from the sofa, started off by swearing. She picked up her fallen hat from the floor. With her hat pressed firmly on her head, Brielle looked at Xian.
It's made of cheap ingredients, so the side effects are severe. Even if it's unpleasant to look at, you better get used to it.
Then, if the ingredients are good, will the condition improve a bit?
It might, don't you think?
Let's go.
Where to?
Just follow me.
Xian put on his robe and went outside. Brielle, who had been watching his back for a moment, hurriedly followed him. The two of them left the building and walked down the street. Where Xian took Brielle was straight to the goblin market.
Wow!
Brielle exclaimed in admiration at the sight of the goblin market, which she had never seen before. To her, who had only been in the damp underground, the goblin market was a whole new world. The people bustling through the streets, the goods laid out on the stalls, and the lively atmosphere unique to the market stole her breath away.
There was such a place in this world.
Brielle's face lit up with wonder. Xian said to her,
If you see good ingredients, go buy them.
Can I buy as much as I want?
Of course!
Thank you!
Excited, Brielle ran off to the shops. It was then that Xian quietly followed behind her.
That's a pretty kid. Who is she?
A familiar voice came from behind. Without turning his head, Xian recognized the owner of the voice.
What brings the owner of the goblin market here?
As you can see, I'm patrolling.
The calm response came from none other than Yusehi. She appeared with the black lion. Yusehi asked again.
So who's that kid?
She was kidnapped and held in the crocodile's den. I'm taking her with me since she said she has nowhere else to go.
You're more compassionate than you seem.
I admit it.
Let's talk.
Aren't we talking right now?
I mean somewhere less crowded.
As you can see, I need to keep an eye on that kid.
This person will watch over her instead.
Yusehi pointed to the black lion. In the goblin market, there was no one who didn't know the black lion. There was no merchant who would dare to deceive a child under the watchful eyes of the black lion. Xian nodded his head.
Let's do that.
Follow me.
After Xian told Brielle to shop to her heart's content, he followed Yusehi to her office.
What would you like to have a drink?
Just a glass of water is enough.
In response to Xian's answer, Yusehi poured water into a cup and handed it to him.
Here.
Thank you.
You're a fascinating man.
Am I?
I'll ask you directly. What happened to Goran?
What do you think happened?
Did you kill him?
Yes.
How?
Just like that.
Yusehi frowned at Xian's brief answer. She stared at him intently, trying to read through him. Any ordinary person wouldn't have dared to look into her eyes, but she couldn't seem to get through Xian.
Is it a secret?
Everyone has secrets they want to hide, don't they?
All right, I admit it. Then I'll make a suggestion.
What is it?
Come into the goblin market.
I'll refuse.
Hey!
Yusehi burst out in frustration at Xian's immediate refusal. But Xian continued without changing his expression.
If I was going to enter the goblin market, there was no need to go through the trouble of dealing with Goran. If I had entered the goblin market, Goran wouldn't have been able to easily touch me.
Puke!
Yusehi's expression crumpled. She knew that what Xian said was true. If he had wanted to rely on the goblin market, there was no need to go through the hassle. Yusehi coveted Xian. Surely she would be more secure if she could only bring Xian to the goblin market. However, she couldn't force him since he had clearly expressed his refusal. Any more coercion than necessary would surely only provoke resistance from the other party.
Okay, fine. I'll respect your decision, but
But
I'll upgrade your Goblin Market access level. In return, when we have a request, think about them positively.
what's good about upgrading the access level?
You'll be able to use the Goblin Market's secret auction.
Secret auction?
Yeah. Sometimes items that are hard to dispose of in Neo Soul come up there.
Is that so?
What will you do?
Okay, let's do that.
The two shook hands. Neo Soul is situated within high walls. Built 100 years ago, these walls were made of rocks that are hard to come by in today's world. Giant rocks were carved into squares, fitted together flawlessly, and reinforced using special methods to construct the walls. Because of this, ordinary monsters couldn't dare to breach the walls. Thanks to these walls, people inside Neo Soul could focus on research and livelihood without worrying about monster attacks. With magical abilities of the Awakened combined with the pre-apocalyptic scientific heritage, Neo Soul progressed significantly. Although limited to Neo Soul, they could construct a superior new world compared to the old civilization. The central building, serving as the control tower of Neo Soul, the City Hall, extends well over 50 floors. 50 floors might not seem like much, but in this age, where building materials are scarce, constructing 50 floors requires a tremendous investment. In fact, even if there were enough materials, they wouldn't have built higher. Going too high might attract the attention of flying monsters. Though not visible to the human eye, various flying monsters were soaring high in the sky. Due to the anti-magic field formed in Neo Soul, they hesitated to approach. But nobody knew if they would be curious enough to approach if the City Hall were taller than this. The area allowed to humanity on Earth was extremely limited. Despite many advancements since the Great Cataclysm, caution against monsters was still necessary. A man of short stature was gazing at the City Hall from beyond the window.
Damn, that's impressive.
The City Hall, a fusion of magic and science, was stunning, overshadowing other buildings in Neo Soul. Just looking at it from a distance made one's heart swell with grandeur.
I need to hurry up and get that magnificent building into my hands. I have no idea what that old man is up to, lingering on like this.
The short-built man turned around, sticking out his tongue. With this, his face became clearer. His face, filled with deep-set wrinkles and surrounded by a white beard, spoke of the many storms he had weathered and survived. The old man was wearing a hat with a colorful pattern embroidered with golden thread. It was a hat commonly used by his ancestors in the homeland in the days when the world was intact. The hat represented the old man's identity. Although he had never visited his homeland, he never forgot his roots. That's why he always wore this hat, which had now become a symbol for him. The old man's name was Xiaolun. He was the ruler of the southern part of Neo Soul. Behind Xiaolun stood a young man who seemed to be in his early 20s. With a slender physique and a cold demeanor resembling ice sculpted into human form, he was quite impressive. Xiaolun spoke gently to the young man.
So, what did you say earlier? My memory isn't what it used to be. I often forget things after hearing them just once.
The contact with the crocodile.
Have you figured out the cause?
It seems there's an issue with the ecosystem in the slums.
Is that so?
Xiaolun raised his white eyebrows. It was rare for him to show interest like this. That's because he had almost achieved everything he wanted. It was regrettable not to have become the owner of that magnificent city hall. But the one occupying the throne was a monster that couldn't be easily dealt with. If he were to seize that building, everything he had built in Neo Soul might collapse like a house of cards. He didn't want to take such risks. Although he had ambitions, he couldn't muster the courage to challenge the most coveted position, so he could only live a decadent life. With that, he showed a rare expression of interest after a long time.
Where exactly is the problem?
It's in Sinchon.
Sinchon? That's...
Gorin is in control there.
Ah, Gorin? He has close ties with the crocodiles, right?
That's correct.
But...
It's suspected that both Goron and the crocodiles are dead.
Suspected?
Their death haven't been confirmed. But since they can't be found anywhere, it's suspected that they're dead.
The young man's words were highly plausible. Xiaolun asked.
Have you figured out who did it?
But even to find out now.
All right, I trust you'll handle it well.
Additionally, I plan to create a new passage.
Are you doing it yourself?
Xiaolun's expression turned surprised. The young man's name was Tajik. Tajik was one of Xiaolun's most trusted subordinates.
Understood. I'll leave everything to you.
I will repay your trust.
Go then.
As Xiaolun waved his hand, Tajik bowed respectfully and left. Left alone, Xiaolun turned his gaze back to the city hall.
I wonder what troublemaker is stirring up trouble this time.
It seemed entertaining to keep an eye on the slums. Elsewhere, Xian wrinkled his nose. The pungent smell of medicine filled the house. On one side, Brielle hummed a tune while tending to a pot over the fire. Inside the small pot she acquired from the goblin market, an unknown liquid was boiling. Brielle was mixing various ingredients she obtained from the goblin market with her own secret blend. As the unknown ingredients boiled, a foul odor emanated from the pot. The smell was so unbearable that even Xian, who rarely showed any expression, wrinkled his nose. But Brielle seemed excited, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Brielle had been adjusting the fire and looking at the pot for almost half a day. Most of the liquid filling the pot had simmered down, leaving only a small amount. At one point, Brielle muttered something over the pot with both hands placed on it. Then a bright light emitted from her hands. Her alchemy ability had been activated. After a moment, the light disappeared from her hands, leaving a dozen or so small pills in the pot.
It's done,
Brielle exclaimed triumphantly. Xian looked at the pills with a curious expression.
Do these alleviate withdrawal symptoms?
For about 10 days with one pill.
So, with 10 pills, it'd be about 100 days?
After that, we'll need to find better ingredients to make more.
When one takes medicine for a long time, the body develops tolerance. The more potent the medicine, the stronger the tolerance. Currently, this level of alleviation could suffice, but eventually, stronger medicine would be needed. Brielle was satisfied with this level for now. 100 days would be enough time to find an alternative. After taking one of the pills, Brielle's complexion noticeably improved. The painstakingly crafted medicine immediately showed its effects. As the effects took hold, her eyes lost focus. She groaned.
Damn shit!
Even her voice became slurred. The medicine's effects were too strong, causing her body to react as if intoxicated. It was only after a long time that Brielle regained her senses, her vision still unfocused, but her mind clear. Recognizing this fact, she pulled her hat down further to cover her face. A strong surge of mana emanated from her entire body. The sudden rise in mana was a temporary phenomenon. Xian noticed the increase in her mana at a glance.
Can alchemy increase mana as well?
To some extent, yes. But it's impossible for me to produce a dramatic change with just 1 or 2 doses.
Brielle had awakened as an alchemist. But during her prime growth period, she was caught by humans for making drugs and her growth was stunted. It would take time for her to grow properly as an alchemist. And once she did, she would be able to create potions that could dramatically increase mana. Of course, to grow to that point, she needed to first fully restore her damaged body to its optimal state. It wasn't an easy task, but it didn't seem impossible either. Now that she had overcome one high hurdle, she believed she could overcome others eventually.
Just wait and see. The moment I become S rank, I'll destroy Neo Soul.
Brielle burst out laughing, her arms resting on her waist. It sounded like the ramblings of a drunkard. Xian silenced Brielle with a flick. A thud echoed.
Ugh.
Brielle grabbed her flushed forehead and groaned.
How dare you strike a noble high elf like that?
Then what? You're just a little brat addicted to drugs?
Just wait. Once I reach S rank, I won't let you off easy.
But you're not even close to S rank.
Don't make me laugh!
Brielle shouted loudly. Elves, like humans, awaken and a rank badge appears on their wrists. There are 7 lines that distinguish from F rank to S rank. She had also awakened, and a rank badge appeared on her hand. Her badge was shining with 2 lines. It meant she was an E rank awakened. She was only a lower rank awakened for now, but with experience she would surely grow. She thought she might be able to break the oath of the High Elves once she became S rank. Then she could easily destroy cities like Neo Soul with her alchemist abilities. Xian chuckled as he looked at the young High Elf. Her self-esteem was clearly exaggerated due to her young age. The alchemist she awakened as was not suitable for combat. Of course, she could create dangerous items with alchemy, but it was impossible to destroy Neo Soul to that extent. Above all, reaching S rank as an awakened wasn't the pinnacle, as evident by Diadem. There were individuals who possessed strength that couldn't be explained by rank badges alone. As long as such individuals existed in Neo Soul, the possibility of Brielle's ambition coming true was close to 0. Xian suddenly looked at Neo Soul. He could see the City Hall building far away. I should visit there sometime. Although he had obtained the access to enter through Mandy, he still didn't feel like going. Then it happened.
Whoa, inspiration strikes!
Brielle suddenly gleamed. She jumped around like a madwoman, cheering. Xian frowned. Whether or not it was there, Brielle moved busily on her own.
All right, that should do it. Ironclad Ant's fang, sandworm's tentacle, and also...
She took out various items from the goblin market in no time and placed them on the table. Then she laid out various tools. Xian clicked his tongue at the sight of the interior of his house, becoming a mess in an instant.
Tisk, I picked up a crazy elf for no reason.
If only it weren't for the damn oath of the High Elves. He would have kicked her out immediately. But it was truly a shame. Brielle's madness filled the house. Even Xian found it hard to breathe in the overflowing madness. Xian shook his head and went outside. Outside, Xian climbed to the rooftop. Although he lived on the 18th floor of this building, it was his first time on the rooftop. Fortunately, no one lived on the rooftop. Xian sat on the rooftop railing and looked at Neo-Sol. The city hall, standing tall in the distance, came into view distinctly. Xian thought it resembled a lighthouse he had only heard of in stories. A lighthouse guiding ships through the sea. But he wasn't sure if that giant lighthouse was guiding the current era in the right direction. Xian had traveled to far more areas than Diodin. There was no one in the current era who had visited more places than him. Naturally, he had experienced more colonies and people. However, none of those colonies had progressed as much as Neo-Sol. Most colonies were merely busy protecting people from the attacks of monsters. They lacked the will and ability to lead the current era in the right direction. The only place with that possibility was Neo-Sol. And the one leading Neo-Sol was Mayor Jin Gyumho. Xian asked as if Jin Gyumho were right in front of him.
What kind of a world do you dream of?